Hello, hello, hello. My name is Reverend Aliza Bloom Robinson. I am coming to you in this particular video to talk about transitional ministry, interim ministry, and ministry consulting. I am all of those things. And what I have found in my 22 plus year career as a Unity minister is that transitional and interim work is a sweet spot for me. I absolutely love the work that comes in transitional ministry. Another word for transition is change. And back in the day, I resisted change as much as anybody I know. I did not enjoy what I now have come to love calling the gap. The unknown was a place I didn't like. But as I've done my own spiritual awakening, as I've done my own work, as I've done my work in ministry all of these years, I have found that the place of the unknown, the place in the gap of change is so rich. It's rich with possibilities. It's rich with infinite potential. It's rich with discovery. It is a space in ministry and in our own individual lives that we can dive in and really open up the space for spirit to move, if you will. There are so many ways to glean the gems and mine the diamonds and discover. It's such a journey of discovery that it is just one of my most favorite things to do. So, what is transitional ministry? A ministry might call a transitional minister or an interim minister or a ministry consultant if perhaps a minister is leaving, whether they've been there a long time or a short time. It can happen when a church decides to make a major decision, like sell a building or buy a building. It can happen for most of our ministries just by navigating the last 2 years with our COVID pandemic and all of that. But when I work with a transitional ministry, when I'm with a ministry in transition, I really like to focus on 3 stages. And the first is the ending. I know it sounds kind of backwards, doesn't it? But what I have come to find in my training and my work and my own personal experience is that if we focus on the completion and the closure of the ending, whatever that is, that actually determines the future success of the ministry. So the better we do our closure and completion, the better off we're going to be when we move to the third stage, which is beginning. But that second stage is the gap. It's the place, the official term is the neutral zone, but I like the term gap so much better because in the gap, it's where you can find so much. It's where in the beginning, there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of stress. Typically, not every ministry has that, but typically there's a lot of contraction. Like, oh no, what are we going to do? And how are we going to do this? All of that stuff can also be a place where grief lives, grief of the loss of a minister or the loss of an ideal or an illusion. So we look at all of that. But one of my superpowers, as I've discovered, I love that term, don't you? Superpower, is I bring a sense of all is well and it is done. Over and over and over again with the people I've worked with the ministries I've worked with, everybody says consistently, like I can bring the spaciousness that I bring causes them to take a breath of relief. Like when you take a breath of relief, the anxiety level can drop. And scientifically, and with neurology and neurochemistry and all of that, it actually causes your system to recalibrate. So I do that both for individuals, the leadership, the congregation, and also for the collective inside the ministry. One of the favorite things that I like to do when we're walking through a transition inside that period of the gap is to begin to ask the question, what is, right? What has been, what is, but what's coming. And one of the tools that I use is to really focus on what's our why. What's our deeper purpose? Why are we a ministry? Why is this ministry in existence? And why is it's our purpose, it's our passion. But when you land, when you discover, when you realize what that why is, and it doesn't come from the leadership's brains or thinking or logic, it comes from setting up this container that spirit has something in mind for your ministry. And when we can open ourselves up to line up with that, there is something magical that happens. It's like, oh, that's why we're here. Once we know our why, then we can discover our what. What is it that we do? And from our why and then our what, then finally, not only until then, do we talk about our how. So ministries who take the time to really sink into and do the work of the gap come out the other side excited, filled with anticipation. There's an aliveness, there's a reconnection, self to spirit, self to ministry, ministry to spirit, all of those things. The collaborative field is rich, and the whole ministry is on a single page with one vision, if you will. And it's at that point that you can begin to move into the third stage, which is the beginning. The beginning is when you're hiring, when you're doing your search process, when you're onboarding your new leadership. And that also is a very fun stage. Anyway, that's a little bit longer than I wanted to share today, but that's a snippet of how I like to work in transitional ministry. I certainly also want to let you know that I work to co-create with the leadership team the specific expectations, the specific tools, the specific workshops, the specific things that really serve you and your leadership and your ministry. So I have a whole gamut of tools and things that we can focus on, but we will co-create that. We will co-design that together. And if you'd like to talk about where your ministry is, or if you're a person and you're in a transition, I'm happy to work with individuals as well. Please, please, please reach out. I am totally available for conversations, for explorations, no obligation in any way, shape, or form, but I'm happy to help and support and guide. And the reason for that is I stand for a world awakening, a world that works for all people and all ministries. I stand for awakening consciousness, for powering up possibilities, and for the embodiment of our own brilliance, whether that's individual or as a ministry. Those things are the fuel behind the success and the future of our movement, of our unity movement, of our world, our new humanity world, and for you personally. Again, I'm Aliza Bloom Robinson. You can find me on alizabloomrobinson.com, and I look forward to hearing from you. Much love.